Greetings from sunny Central Florida. Welcome to Grace's neighbor Sharon. Let's get to crafting.
Project number 1, boho tassel wall hanging. I apologize, this video is probably a minute or so longer than my usual videos because I slowed it down in the middle to show you how to do the tassel. So we have a 10-inch diameter circle that I got from Amazon. Keychain rings I decided not to use, but I do use a utility knife, the men's comb. I don't use a dowel, I don't use the wood flower, but I do use one of these napkins. I have a bubble mailer full of napkins that I got from eBay last year. And I'm just going through them because in my mind I'm thinking coastal, sunset on the ocean, you know, blues, oranges, yellow. So I did pull some blue macrame cord. You can use any cord you want. You can use just regular, like a beige color macrame cord, or you could use Dollar Tree yarn. I've used Dollar Tree yarn for these hangings. I just decided to use the macrame cord for this one. It makes pretty thick tassels, so you don't need as much cord for your tassels. I made a template from the wax paper and then fold it in half and use that to find the half of my circle. And I did it with a little Cricut pen there, but I didn't really need to because I'm going to use the ruler to help guide the utility knife anyway. So these circles, there must be like an eighth of an inch or maybe even less. But it's really hard to use the saw on them. So what I did is I scored it a couple times and then tried to break it. And then I scored it on the back, tried to break it. And I actually just kept doing that. And I think in total maybe 6 times on each side. And I got a pretty nice clean break that needed very little sanding. I'm going to slap some Mod Podge on there, let it dry for about half an hour. And I'm going to come back with my napkin, decide which part of the napkin I want to use, and make sure the bottom layers are separated, so I'm only using the top layer. I trim it so I have a smaller piece of napkin to work with. And I'm going to get a piece of parchment paper and make sure the whole thing's covered, and it creates a barrier between the heat and the napkin so nothing gets burned or nothing sticks. Some people have said you should not move the iron, but I move it like I'm ironing an article of clothing and it works just fine for me. It comes out fantastic and I don't even trim it. It comes out so nicely and the edges are down so well that I just sand it and it literally just falls off. In fact, it's so perfect. I go into the corners there and I try and make it look like the wood is showing through so it's not like totally perfect. Because it just comes out so good. I just love this method of decoupage and this method of finishing up after. And I will use it as often as I can. And when I can't, usually I'll use the glue stick instead. Anyways, we got that the way we want it, and we're going to set it aside and work on the cords. This is the hanging cord. It's about 30 inches because that's twice the 15-inch cord that I want. I double it up, make head and tails there, and now you see me wrapping some cord around my fingers 5 times. And this is the cord for the tassel. So the tassel wrap. Once I've got the tassel wrap finished, I hold it in my hand and I pull the head of the hanging cord through. You see it's just sitting there, and then I just pull the tails of the hanging cord through the head of the hanging cord. And there you have it. The hanging cord's attached to the tassel but without any knots. This is the one knot I'm going to use. I wrap it around twice. One single knot. Part of the cord goes down with the tassels and the other part of the cord I trim right at the base of the knot and then put a little bit of glue, a little dab of hot glue so that it doesn't come loose. And then I'm going to trim the bottoms, or trim the loops, I should say, cut the loops and then trim the bottoms. And then I take that men's comb where the teeth are wider and I get the cord unraveled. And this 3mm cord unravels really nice. I really love how it looks. I take the thinner teeth to finish it off, and then I trim the bottom. And it just comes out so beautiful. Look, there's my tassel. I'm going to turn the camera off and make a whole bunch of them. And now I'm back. Now I just do a lot of fussing around. I'm trying to figure out how long I want the hanging cords to be, because I do them all the same and then decide what look I like after. You know, that way I'm not, oh, it's too short or it's too long, or, you know, everything is exactly the same, and I don't trim until the very, 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 very end. So I'm going to comb them out one more time. And this is just to get the tassels about the same length and about the same shape. And except for the middle one that is light blue, I'm leaving that one a little bit longer. I don't know if it's fuller, but it is longer. And I just wanted that to be more obvious for the shape that I'm creating. And I'm not even sure how many hanging tassels there is. I just created the tassels based on the pattern that I was thinking about. And now I'm going to create that pattern using a whole lot of glue. So I put a bead of E6000 horizontally across, and now when the hanging cords are attached to the wood, they go through that bead of E6000. Each hanging cord is going to get a vertical bead of hot glue underneath it, and I'm going to do that for each individual cord, taking care of the length, you know, keeping an eye on some symmetry. So each cord goes through the E6000 horizontally, gets the bead of glue vertically, and then I come back with some hanging cord to put on top of the E6000 just to finish it off, so it's not so it doesn't dry bare or get on anything else, so the cord there covers it up. Then for some reason I decide I need a bead of hot glue right above that, and I put 2 popsicle sticks on top of that bead of hot glue. So now that I'm happy with how they're attached, I trim the top edges. And our little boho tassel hanging is complete. I'm going to put a hanging cord on the back, hang it up on the wall, and I'll show you how it looks in the final reveal. Project number 2, sunset mirror. So I'm calling it a sunset mirror because I still have those colors in my mind from the previous project, and the previous project I ended up just using the blues. So I choose some sunset themed colors, or a sunset themed color scheme. And so this project involves some paint stick scraps again, a Dollar Tree mirror taken off the frame and the backing, although I will put the backing back on later. I was going to use some nautical rope, but I decided not to. So I'm just going to get these paint sticks painted in like a wash color. So I want to be able to see the wood underneath, and I want to be able to see like imperfections and brush strokes and whatever. I chose 10 paint sticks. 12 probably would have been easier to figure out as far as the pattern goes, but I'm not sure if 12 would have fit, and I didn't really want them to be overlapping. The ship's wheel mirror that I made in the previous video had 8 paint stick scraps, so I chose 10 for this one. And I really like the water finish on them. I started off with a pretty thin mixture, and some of them I did maybe 2 or 3 times until they got as dark as I wanted, not too dark. But anyways, the backing I wanted to be painted as well. I just wanted it to look a little bit more professional, a little bit more high-end. But I can't believe how close in color my castle paint is to the color of the cardboard. Like, unbelievable how close it is in color. Like, it was almost like, why did I even do that? But I did do that and then realized how floppy and bowed and just not very strong that cardboard was, and there was no way it was going to support all those paint sticks and the mirror. So I found a wood round that is just a little bit smaller. So I figured that's perfect because it's not going to show on the other side. So I smeared some E6000 around the outside edge, and I decided to put the hanging rope on now because it would be in between the 2 rounds, and that's just such a nice strong hold I couldn't resist. So I'm careful not to put the hot glue where the E6000 is. I make sure they're separate. You get the strong hold and the in-between hold, and that worked great. So I'm able to keep working on this, and all that needs to be done now is to figure out the pattern on the paint sticks. But it was a little bit frustrating. I had to turn the camera off at one point because I just could not figure it out. I was like, oh my gosh. But I realized I need a top, bottom, and 4 on the sides. Because I have 10 paint sticks, whereas the ship's wheel had 8, and I had top, bottom, side to side, 1 in between, and that probably sounds pretty confusing. But it just, having 2 extra messed up the pattern, but I really wanted it to be a little bit fuller without overlapping. So I figured out where 2 inches was on the sticks, and then I kind of held them there while I glued them down. And you'll see it hanging up at the final reveal. Project number 3 is a BOHO Farmhouse welcome crate. And these are the items that I use in this craft. So we have the white nautical rope, the octagon frame, the welcome sign that I did on my Cricut, and the Dollar Tree crate. So everything's from Dollar Tree except for the welcome sign. So I take the frame apart, I take away all the insides, and I'm just going to use the actual frame part. It's plastic, I believe, and it's got like this little trough on the back, so it's kind of rounded at the front and then empty with a little trough in the back, which is going to be helpful later on. So everything is going to get a coat of white paint, and by everything I mean the frame and the crate. Except for the back. I don't paint the back of the crate because I'm going to be gluing it to the frame, so I wanted a natural surface to do that. So it's actually just a quick messy coat because I'm going to just dress it after anyway. So you'll see me just kind of hold it down with a stick, and I'm not concerned that it's leaving marks because you're not gonna tell on the frame because it's actually going to be wrapped, but on the crate it's going to be distressed. So to distress the crate, I waited until the paint was totally dry, and then I took my paintbrush and like squeezed all the water, all the paint, rubbed it, squeezed it until I wasn't getting any color off of it, and then I dabbed it in a little bit of brown, and I dabbed the brown off another little bit, and I like to start on the corners and just kind of like fly it across. So I act like I'm going to paint it, but I do it like really fast, and I raise my hand as I'm drawing the paintbrush across it, and I just love how that looks with the, see the dark, and then the paint just sort of spreads out and thins out. So once I'm done with that, there's a little bit of assembly here. I did find some fluorofoam there. You'll see I have it in, but it kind of falls in and out as this craft progresses. So I just wanted to make sure it fit, and it does. So I'm going to turn my attention to other things. I'm showing you, I think it's 9.5 feet on the white nautical rope. So Amanda from 6 Kids and a Glue Gun did this with her rope. I'm not sure if I'm doing it the same way she did. It looked really cool when she did it. And so I'm just winding the rope around the frame, and I'm unwinding the rope as I'm winding it around, which sounds kind of silly when you say it, but basically what I'm doing is I'm turning the rope into 3 smaller ropes as I'm winding it around. And it just has such a unique look. You know, it's very soft and fuzzy. And the only thing was I ran out of rope. I cut, you know, just a random length because it was really hard to unwind the rope when it was long. So I cut it like halfway, and I got about 3/4 of the way, and I knew I was going to run out. So my decision was to start another rope on the beginning of the other side and bring the ropes together in one spot. That seemed like the smart thing to do because of that little trough in the back. And so what ends up happening is I bring the 2 ropes together in the back, and I squirt some glue in that little trough area, that little empty hollow area there. And then I use a palette knife. So to be perfectly honest with you, the last few minutes of this video did record, but I never turned it off and ended up walking around the house for more than half an hour. And my video editing software does not like long videos like that and would not accept it. So here's a few still frames so you can see how I finished off this cute little boho farmhouse crate, and then we'll go straight from this to the final reveal. And here's the final reveal. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a big thumbs up. See you soon.